And today we're going to have a comparison, choosing your desert oasis. Albuquerque, New Mexico versus Tucson, Arizona. We got a great show in store for you today, folks. We have our special guests, Pamm Myers and Jeff Schuchart, and we'll tell you about each of them. So we'll start off with Pamm. Pamm is a storyteller, dynamic leader, and advocate dedicated to fostering prosperity within the LGBTQIA community through business innovation and social advocacy. With a multifaceted background, Pamm has become a trailblazer in various fields, leaving an indelible mark on New Mexico's LGBTQIA and business communities. She is the CEO of Go Social, Pamm Myers Social Media. Pamm is the forefront of digital marketing and podcasting solutions for business owners and organizations. A visionary approach has empowered countless ventures to harness the potential of social media, unlocking new avenues for growth and engagement, and is a driving force behind her clients' success, leveraging the power of connectivity to elevate their brand through digital marketing and podcasting. Pamm is also the managing partner of Two Flower Productions, a podcasting company that produces Lip Service. It's a podcast of our coming out stories, which I was on, so you can go listen to that one. And also Lip Service Media, 3Q, New Mexico's business podcast. Previously, the executive director of the New Mexico Out Business Alliance, currently board advisor for the Way Out Film Fest, board advisor of the Albuquerque Community Foundation Pride Circle, supporting the LGBTQIA community through philanthropy.
Woo, that's a lot. Sounds fancy.
That was a big one. It does sound fancy, but you are fancy.
Oh, well, thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure and honor to be here.
Thank you. And we have Jeff Schuchart. We'll tell you a little bit about Jeff. From personal interest to profession, he relocated to Tucson, Arizona with his husband during the summer of 2014. I know what you're thinking. You moved during the summer? Oh my God, it's so hot in the summer. He did, and he never looked back. They both grew up in Southeast Pennsylvania and had a timeline in mind to pick up and move, even though they knew no one in Tucson. Jeff always has a personal interest in real estate, and after retiring in 2016, he obtained his realtor license and joined Long Realty, the largest brokerage in Southern Arizona and part of the Berkshire Hathaway network. I must add, the best realtor in Tucson.
Thank you.
His background, he spent 30 years with VF Corporation, which was entirely in human resources. He has an undergrad degree in fine arts and a master's in business administration from state and private universities in Pennsylvania. His husband, Bob, and Jeff found Tucson to be an amazing city with wonderful people, diverse, a university town. Love university towns. A city of gastronomy and culture, hiking, cycling, golfing, mountains everywhere, and a large gay community. He has volunteered most of his adult life and found plenty of organizations to support in the local community. He never tires about talking about Tucson and all it has to offer. Feel free to visit his website at jeffs.longrealty.com. That's jeffs.longrealty.com, or email him directly at jeffs@longrealty.com, and he can answer any questions about their experience. Welcome to the podcast, Jeff. Thank you for
Mark,
coming.
as always, pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So we'll start off. Welcome to the podcast. And can you explain why you chose both? You chose Tucson, Jeff, and Albuquerque or Placitas, Pamm?
Sure, Jeff, do you want to go first?
Go ahead,
sorry.
I'll follow it up.
Yeah, we chose the Albuquerque area. It was a dream of mine to move to Santa Fe for 10, 12 years. And I brought my wife out to Santa Fe, and she did not think, we were still working, and she did not think that she could find an engineering job in Santa Fe, that it was too small. And so then I said, well, what about Albuquerque. And so I had never been to Albuquerque before, but thought, okay, it's in the Southwest and it's high desert. So we came to check it out and liked the area. So we moved here in 2013 and never looked back.
Great. How about you, Jeff? What brought you to Tucson out of every
Similar
place?
story, just different city. That's all. Well, we vacationed here a few times throughout Arizona, Phoenix, North, and then Tucson. And we just, honestly, we took a chance. And what we really loved about Tucson is the size of the city, which is about 1 million residents with the suburbs and some separately incorporated towns. But we loved, you've been on the East, Mark, so it's so different living in the West in terms of how much you can see, and it's open space, and just and true for you too there, Pam.
Right.
And so we just loved the area, and we said we'll come out for a year and a half, and if we don't like it, we'll look somewhere else. And 10 years later, we're still here.
You're still here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There's something to be said for the wide open spaces where you can just look and see for miles. It just opens up, I don't know, your soul for, I don't know, good energy.
Yeah, we don't have that wide open in Phoenix as much as we do, as much as you guys do in Tucson and Albuquerque. So, but we have city, and then if you drive out of the cities, Phoenix is so big anyway. Right. So then you get that open feeling. So definitely. So tell us, let's get on to climate and geography. How would you describe the climate and geography of Tucson and Albuquerque, and what makes each city unique in terms of weather and natural surroundings? We'll start off with that. Pam?
I think I don't remember what the elevation of Tucson is, Jeff. What's your elevation there?
Roughly 2,800.
Okay.
feet.
Okay. So I think all in all, there's a lot of similarities between this area, between the Albuquerque area of New Mexico and Tucson, with the exception of elevation. And that's what makes our climate vastly different then, right? Because we're at 5,000 feet. We're technically in Placitas, which is a small little rural suburb. So we're at 57 feet. And so you feel the weather very, very differently. And that's, I think, what we love about it, because you can get days in the wintertime where you can go out, and if the sun is shining, you can be out in a t-shirt because of you're so much closer to the sun. And it doesn't.
Get nosebleeds?
You know what? When you first move here, if you move from, like, we moved here from the Dallas area, it took weeks to get.
Time, right?
It does, right? It takes weeks for your body to adjust to the dryness.
You get dizzy, or?
I don't. I mean, I've had some people be bothered.
Because of the elevation.
You
have to drink water and hydrate.
You do. You have to stay hydrated. Yep, it's an important thing, because, again, and just like Tucson, it's so dry, right? If you're perspiring, you don't always know it because you're dry, right? Exactly.
Except for when we're out in 110 to 120 degrees.
Well, yeah. Or you get into a hot car, and then it takes, yeah. But we're very lucky with that here, because the weather is really ideal. I mean, our summers are mild. And our winters are pretty mild, and we cool off at night. So it's really very lovely.
I remember being in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, in October, and I was freezing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's even higher elevation.
Right. They're at 7,500 feet. Yeah. So they're generally anywhere from 8 to 15 degrees cooler than we are.
Wow.
And yet they're only 40 minutes away.
Yeah. It's a big difference. How about you in Tucson, Mr. Jeff?
Well, Bob and I live in Oro Valley, which is, when I referred to 2,800 feet, that's where we are. Tucson is just a little bit less, probably a couple hundred feet, maybe 2,600. So obviously it still gets hot here in the summer, very warm. And Mark, you and I know we've had the conversation about Phoenix. So Tucson's in the summer 5-7 degrees cooler than the Phoenix Valley. And so we all probably have 300 plus days of sunshine every year, which is why we love it here. And just like Pam mentioned, for most of the year, but we cool off drastically. When that sun goes down, there's often a 25 to 30 degree temperature swing between day and night. And it's just 90 degrees may sound hot to some of our listeners, but when it's 60 at night and the sun goes down, it cools off really quickly and it's just beautiful. So we have different climate than some other areas, but it's just lovely most of the year and it's hot part of the year. So
it's a dry heat.
Well, listen to who's talking about dry
right.
I love when somebody tells me that.
It is relatively speaking, right?
It is.
We get humidity in the summer, and it might be 30% or maybe just slightly higher, but you won't see the 70%, 80 and 90 that we were accustomed to where we lived before. So it is dry, and hydration is really, really important, especially if you're outside and you're hiking or doing some type of activity and you just don't realize how much water you need to consume.
We're like all desert rats here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That's
and
so funny.
we do laugh at when people say
it's dry heat.
It's dry heat, but it's amazing what the humidity, how it impacts.
Oh yeah,
the heat,
6%
right? I mean,
humidity. It does impact, and let's take it for example. Today we're recording this on October 29th. Yesterday in Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken, was in the 90s for the high. Today, I don't think we reached 73, I think, just before when I was out. And it was chilly. I had my sweatshirt on this morning, taking the dogs out at 5:30 in the morning. And even after that, at around 10, I had my sweatshirt on and I just took it off now.
Aren't you retired, Mark?
I am.
Yeah. Why do you get up at 5:30?
The dogs.
Because of the heat. Yes, got it. Yeah.
Well,
take the dog.
The heat now in the morning is not bad. It's still it's in the 60s now and 70s. So I really could sleep in, but I'm so used to getting up so early from work.
Yeah.
That I'm still getting up. So
yeah.
Yeah, and the dogs are used to it too. And they're like, "Where are you? Take me out."
Mark, I'll add one thing, and we rely on monsoons in the summer for our moisture. And when we talk about humidity and the dew points, we have to have those numbers go up significantly in the summer because that's what generates the energy for the monsoons. And without those dew points, we wouldn't have the opportunity for monsoons. So we always hope we get those rains in the summer because it's dry so much of the rest of the year.
We didn't get too many this year here in Phoenix. We have more like monsoons instead of monsoons. So I don't know how it is. I know you have a drought too, Pam, right?
Yeah. Well, we're like 10 plus years in the making here but it seemed like we had a fair amount. I don't remember the numbers that we've had of monsoons this summer, but it seemed like it was a fair amount. So hopefully that will put us in a better position. And we already have snow in Santa Fe Ski Mountain. That's great.
Rain here is an event. Like people get excited. It's like, oh my God, it's raining. And I'm from New York originally and then Florida where it rains every day. And people are like celebrating rain. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's true. It's true because it doesn't rain here. So getting into the next question, how has climate change impacted each city? And are you seeing any more extreme weather patterns, extreme heat, droughts or storms occurring now? And have your respective cities done anything to mitigate climate change?
You want me to
Pam?
start with
Pam?
that one, or Jeff, do you want to go first?
Oh, go ahead, Pam.
I think it seems like we've not seen a lot of extremes as much as it's been, I would say, erratic. Like we had a much warmer October than normal. And now it's just starting to get chilly. But we've not seen any great extremes here. The city is doing a lot. Like they were just awarded a grant to be able to put things into place to like watering time limits and a shop local program and increasing the EV charging stations to encourage people to buy more electric vehicles and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't say we've seen any. I don't think we've seen any big extremes. I mean, our summer was pretty mild, but the city is working to get prepared.
That's great. Jeff.
Well, Tucson is somewhat immune to extreme weather events, unlike the rest of the country. I think we could all agree that these, whether it's tornadoes or hurricanes, I mean, they're just becoming more violent and more extreme. We're pretty immune to those patterns because we are ringed by mountains. And so there's very little history of extreme weather here. I mean, we can get severe monsoons during the summer that result in a lot of damage, but those are microbursts. Traditionally, a regular monsoon isn't going to have that kind of damage. But I think to answer your question specifically, our extreme is just, I think, in the length of time that we're having these hot days.
Yeah.
And we're not quite as warm as Phoenix, but it just seemed that, especially these last two summers, that the number of hot days was longer than other years. And even now, as Pam said, we've had days in the 90s in the last couple of weeks, and we keep saying, and we were teased with a couple of cooler days in the midst of all that, but then it just came back. So I would say it's lasted longer than in previous years. So I think here, and without being critical of other areas, but I'll just make a comparison. Like if you go to California, you're going to see a lot of natural grass there. If you go to Phoenix, you're going to see more than we have here in Tucson. I mean, we really don't have a lot of natural grass because we don't want to water it, and we shouldn't. I mean, we have golf courses, but probably a fraction of the number of courses in Phoenix and other areas. So the focus on xeriscaping and on types of plants and just using the minimal amount of water to provide nutrition. But even that, I would say we're losing cactus and agaves in the summer that we probably were not accustomed to losing in other years, because they're not getting watered unless we get rains. And if we don't get rains, they too can die. Yeah.
And we're experiencing that too, probably even more than anyone else here in Phoenix, because we've had how many days? I can't even keep track anymore. 110 days over, or is it 110 degrees? We had an extraordinary amount of days over like 100 and 110 degrees. And it seemed like, and the summer lasted 6 months out of the year. So I personally, I kind of felt captive of my own home. Because what do? You don't go out. You go out to the store, the grocery store, buy whippy, but you can't do anything else in the outdoors. So that's a problem. And so, okay. So do you know if the government in Tucson is doing anything proactive regarding climate change?
I really don't know that answer, Mark, but if you remember the biosphere, where that was, I guess, built in the 80s, I think. It's located here in Tucson, and that's where there was a small group of people who were kind of sequestered inside these buildings to see if they could plant and grow and with temperature to survive without any outside factors and assistance. So it didn't last, but I'm bringing it up because today the University of Arizona owns Biosphere and it's managed by them. And so there are interns that come in and they are working on specifically climate change issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that that's specific for Tucson versus might be nationwide, but
Yeah.
that's one example I can think of.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a fascinating place to visit.
Yeah. I definitely have to take another visit.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
So yeah, climate change has become a very big topic all over the world and as well on this podcast. So I always try to find out about climate change. How about the water
Yeah.
supply? Are we like what's going on with the water supply in both of those cities? Pam, you want to tell us a little bit about Albuquerque and New Mexico's
Yeah.
water supply?
I mean, the water is always a constant concern, right? When you're living in a climate like we have, we rely on monsoon, but mostly even snowfall
Mm-hmm.
on the mountains to provide water. We have a lot of acacias here for the farm, so it's ditches, so they have this whole irrigation system that comes off of the Rio Grande, and then people have acacias that run all through neighborhoods and farmland to water. And I know that they are concerned about the longevity of that if we don't get snowfall is not enough. And it felt like last year we had a ton of snowfall, but on the mountains, but apparently it wasn't what we really needed to have. So there is some concern, but the city and the state are taking measures to try and educate people on use of water. Most people here have stone or just natural grass, natural environments. So it's not like when you go into, oh gosh, like Las Vegas or something where you see, or even Scottsdale where people have green
I was just
lawns and
going to
they're
say
watering
Scottsdale.
all the time. Right. Yeah. We don't have a lot of that here. So that's certainly helpful, but they are working on providing education for resources to mitigate a lot of that and putting in smart water monitors and that kind of thing. So
Does New Mexico get their water from the Colorado River?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, any place in the Southwest where always water is top of mind, right?
Yeah.
It is.
And you, Jeff, in Tucson, with the water situation, the same thing, right?
It's always a question. And I get it from real estate clients.
Yeah. Is there going to be enough water?
Especially those that don't live here, and we're going to have enough water. And
what do you tell them?
Well, I don't know that answer. I tell them that, in fact, I just was at an appointment last night, and I mean, I don't know this answer, but, they're still building around here, homes, apartments, and I believe I'm correct in saying that the builder has to show that they have enough water for 100-year supply.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how they're defining that or where they're coming up with that, but they can't build. It's not going to get approved unless they can prove that or show that. So, but again, to Pam's point, I mean, we have passive water harvesting on our property, so that passive meaning that when we do get rain, it's going to collect in these valleys that we've created with rock to help water downstream. When I say downstream, that sounds like a long distance on a house. It's not, but you know what I mean. So, and there's lots of educational opportunities here to learn about how to do those things through public gardens and the university. And so there's opportunities. People have collections set up under if they have rain gutters and things like that, they're reusing that water to keep their plants and trees replenished. So it's always a question.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
I was just listening. I just was listening to a podcast on NPR just yesterday, and they were talking about how we are in line to lose 30% of the trees that we have in the United States because of climate change.
Wow.
That's a pretty shocking number, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we need more trees.
Right.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. So sorry to interrupt you, Mark.
No, not at all. I was going to go on to the next subject, healthcare. Let's talk a little bit about healthcare. How's the healthcare system in your city? How long does it typically take to see a PCP, primary care physician? Are there any concerns about healthcare access or long wait times? And how about where are the nearest hospitals to you, and how many hospitals do you have? So we'll start off with Pamm. Tell us a little bit about the healthcare system. And
we've got 4 major healthcare systems here. We have Presbyterian, Loveless, UNM Health, and then San Juan Regional. And Presbyterian and Loveless are probably the 2 largest. There's also a 5th one that is evading me at the moment, Christus St. Vincent. And so there's actually 5.
And UNM, right?
And UNM, yep. And I mean, it feels like they're almost like gas stations. There are so many of them all around. Now, the major hospitals, we are 20 minutes from one major hospital, 30 minutes from another. If you're right in Albuquerque, you're going to be 10 minutes, right, from 3 different hospitals within just a short distance. So I think in terms of having the hospital support here, it's really good. You are just like anywhere. I was at an event this summer, and UNM Healthcare had a table, and somebody walked up and said, "I've just moved here. I need to find a new doctor." And they said, "Well, you're going to have a 2-week wait list. We're on a two-year wait list."
Wow.
And I was like, "You're kidding me. 2 years? That seems a little crazy." But on the other hand, my wife needed to get in to have her hip looked at, and she called today, and she has an appointment on Monday. So it really, I think, just depends on the facility that you're trying to get into.
Do you have a primary care physician?
Yep.
And how long does it take you to get in? A weeks?
A week, usually. Yeah. I mean,
maybe it's for new participants.
That's my thought. Yes. If you're looking for somebody new, it might be more challenging. It also might be UNM that for that particular
right. One that's 2 years.
Right.
2 years
That's
a
long time. Right.
Sure is.
Yeah. But it's also that we've lost a lot of. I was reading a report to get ready for this podcast. I was surprised to read that we've lost 30% of our doctors in the state as a whole since the pandemic. And
Why
so now they're working.
Is?
They didn't have a reason. I do know that the doctors in New Mexico don't make nearly as much as they do in other cities or other states.
That could be the reason.
Could be a big reason.
Yeah. How about Jeff? How about Tucson? Hospitals nearby? How long does it take to get into a primary care physician or a specialist?
I was counting while Pamm was speaking because I usually don't name the hospitals when I'm on these podcasts, but I'm pretty certain we have 6, and there's one in Oro Valley, which is probably 7 minutes from where we live. There's one that is called Northwest Medical Center. Those 2 have some type of relationship, and for providers as well, where they have privileges at both hospitals. Banner is University of Arizona. It's a teaching hospital, so it's very large with multiple locations. We have Tucson Medical Center, and then we have St. Mary's, and we also have a VA hospital here in Tucson. So, and they're all over the geography. So I find that if you're going to a specialist, which I'll just speak from our opinion, is that we have very good specialists in Tucson, and Tucson isn't that big. I'm willing to drive to a different part of town to see a specialist that I want to see.
Yeah.
But a lot of the specialists, if their practice is large enough, they'll have multiple office locations throughout the city. The one thing that I have been disappointed in since we moved here is the number of PCPs who leave, and the turnover is high. I think part of the reason is the wages, as Pamm said. The other piece is the demand on them. I sound like I'm pretty knowledgeable about it. I believe I really am correct. It's the demand that's placed on them to see patients and the volume of patients. And I believe it's the result of practices being purchased by conglomerates who are not in medicine, but they're in there for the profit. And so I have had personal experiences both in Pennsylvania before moving here and here where my PCPs have left to go to a VA because the VA offers them a set schedule, Monday through Friday. They don't have to work past 5 o'clock. And am I accurate on every single thing? I don't know that I am, but I do believe that.
Probably.
I do believe that that's why a lot of them were leaving. Our PCP in Pennsylvania, he was fairly young. He had 4 young children, and they were pressuring him to see more and more people. And one of his goals was to offer the amount of time necessary to get to know the patient and spend as much quality time with them as he wanted to. And so he left. And I think that's the case here as well. So my most recent PCP left in, I think, July. So I have an appointment in November to see a different PCP. So it probably was about 4 months out for that. And specialists, again, if you have a relationship with one and you're already a patient, I don't find that it takes an excessive amount of time to get scheduled. But if you are not a patient, it could take 6 months or longer to get in to see that person. But I mean, overall, the level of healthcare here is more than satisfactory. I mean, we like most of all of our docs, but that whole PCP thing is just, I don't know if it's going to change. I really don't. I mean,
this is my wish, they should make it illegal for companies that have nothing to do with the medical field that just buy up these medical practices. They should make it illegal to do that. You should have some sort of medical background, not just a financial interest.
Not just be in it for the money. Yeah.
Right. And then screw it up management wise, and these places start collapsing.
Right.
And another outcome of that, not always, but is that sometimes, depending on who owns it, the practice, you don't get to speak to someone locally. They're somewhere else. And you know what I mean by somewhere else. So, so that part can be frustrating. Yeah. But I do, we're quite happy with the access here and a lot of our docs. So.
Okay, that seems like the overall consensus as far as Phoenix and Albuquerque both are satisfied with the healthcare that each city provides. Okay. Same thing, just throwing in a little Phoenix. Same thing. I think Phoenix has a good healthcare system as well, just in case anybody is interested.
Wondering. Yeah.
So, okay. Cost of living. Very important. So, what's the cost of living like in Tucson and Albuquerque? And
Mm-hmm.
specifically, can you compare the median price of a 2 to 3 bedroom single family home and a 2 to 3 bedroom rental to the national average? We'll start that question off with Jeff, since he has experience in his realty.
There you go, Jeff. No pressure.
Well, yeah, I should have looked at the list of questions, Mark.
So, two to
I'm
three
not sure I
bedroom single
know.
family
I'm
home,
really not sure I know
the
all the
average.
rentals, but I know they're going up. I know they're
Mhm.
still building a lot. And I know that there have been companies who have purchased a lot of the apartment complexes here and kind of gutting the units, charging more money, and in a lot of cases, so much that the residents that are in there had to move because they couldn't afford it any longer. So they're creating these upscale apartment complexes, and then they own so many of them that their market share is huge. But they're still building because we need those units. But I think it's probably generally, if you're in an apartment complex with some amenities, it's probably pretty difficult to find something under $1,000 a month.
Oh, yeah, I would think.
For a 1 bedroom. That's my best guess. Housing prices, just like almost everywhere, have gone up since during and since COVID. So, and they haven't really backed off here. And I won't talk that much about real estate to answer the question, but I mean, probably our average price is probably around 340,000 for that 2 bedroom, 2 bath, somewhere in that range. And again, it just depends on what part of town that you live. But that's probably the average or maybe median price for
Sounds pretty reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it is. I mean, our cost of living here is pretty reasonable for people to live here. I mean, generally speaking. So.
What about property taxes, Jeff? Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, good one.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pay her to ask me that question?
I put it a little bit on the side.
Well, we've talked about this offline, and because Mark, you can add to the conversation about Phoenix, but our property taxes. I mean, if you ask someone who moved here from a different space, Californian is going to tell you that it's extremely reasonable.
Right.
So I'll answer it specifically and say there's always an assessed value of a home, and so the calculation is, and I'll give you an example. If a house has an assessed value of $350,000, the property taxes will be roughly 10 to 15% of that. So that means $3,500 to potentially $4,500 of property taxes on a $350,000 property. So that's going to be significantly higher than Phoenix, but that's our average here in Tucson. Now, again, it's all relative. It depends on where you've come from and what you're used to, but that's the calculation, kind of black and white.
I've been looking at property taxes because whenever I examine a place, is this a good place for retirement? I always want to know what the property tax is because that's a big thing. So,
it could be bigger than your mortgage payment.
Let's say I have a 1,700 square foot condo. I pay approximately, I think it's $2,800 per year, which is very reasonable. And everywhere else I look, I'm like, oh, property tax is $8,000 on a similar type square footage. California is up in the 8,000s, and there's other places on the East Coast, Philadelphia, $8,600. How about in New Mexico, in the Albuquerque area?
We're lower than both of you, I think. Well, the median, first of all, to go back from the beginning, the median 2-bedroom home here is about 370 on average, right?
Okay.
And of course, to Jeff's point, it depends on the neighborhood that you're in, it depends on the area and that kind of thing. And the average 2-bedroom apartment is $13.50 a month.
Reasonable.
Our house is, in terms of property taxes, our house is 2,000 square feet. We are on a couple of acres and we pay $2,300 a year for property taxes. It's pretty low.
That's really good.
Yeah. We do have a state income tax, but it's nominal. I don't know the percentage, but it's pretty small. It's not a big deal.
I imagine we should, well, I'm speaking of us, we should be grateful that the assessed value is now not what we would sell the house for.
Right.
Because,
Yes.
With the spike in home prices.
Oh, yeah.
We're probably paying around $9,000 in taxes for 3,250 square feet on about an acre and a half, but the value of the house, or not, but the value if we sold the house would be quite a bit higher. So
yeah,
right,
yeah, they'd be paying a lot more property tax.
we would be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome, excellent. So both Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Tucson have very reasonable property taxes. So something to definitely take into consideration if you're looking to move to either of these places. And Phoenix as well. I'll throw that in. It has pretty good property taxes. How about cost of living? Utilities, grocery bills. I know grocery bills have gone up everywhere, but utilities, internet in each city, water, how does that compare? Yeah.
Well,
no, you go right ahead, Jeff.
Go ahead, Jeff. I'm a bad host.
No, you're good. It's all good.
Yeah. I think the costs are pretty reasonable here. I mean, I was just speaking to a neighbor who was selling her house, and I asked her, I said, "Why are your water bills so high?" But our water bill is roughly $125 a month. Now, we're pretty disciplined about knowing that weekends the rates are lower. So if we're going to do laundry, we're going to do it on the weekend.
Look at you. You're so good.
Well, it does help. And we all have irrigation systems. So you have to be really vigilant about making sure you don't have leaks. But we live in our valley, so we can watch the daily usage. And even if it spikes, sometimes we'll get notified by the city that you have a spike and to at least investigate it. So I think water rates are pretty reasonable. And so is gas. The electric, I mean, more and more people are having solar installed on their roofs. And of course that substantially can drop your price. And I don't want to go into the whole solar decision-making process, but certainly if you have it, you're likely to spend a lot less on electric. Our electric bill this summer, June is our warmest month. I think we were at about $420. But again, it's all relative. I mean, some people come in from living somewhere else and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, that's so cheap." It's not cheap.
It is, right. It's relative.
So I think from a cost of living standpoint and compared to other areas of the country, I think most of our expenses are pretty reasonable.
Okay. How about you, Pam?
I hope sharing those specific examples of us helps the listeners. At least you have to kind of measure how big's the house and what's the temperature.
Of course.
But
definitely appreciate it. Just for an example, I'll add in Phoenix. So our electric bills at the high, I think, are close to 300 for 1,700 square foot during the summer. And not all the time. It's in the twos. But in the winters, then we don't put on the air conditioning or the heat. We don't very rarely have heat on. And so during the winter months and the fall, we could have $70 bills.
Yeah. Are you on one floor, Mark, or two?
One.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't do stairs anymore. How about you, Pam? What's cost of living like?
It's pretty similar to what both of you have just described. The average electric bill is about $150 to $170 a month, and solar is very, very popular here. So it really depends on the size of your house and how many stories you have and the construction. Is it adobe or is it not adobe, which makes adobe or straw bale are very efficient and very popular here. Like our house is again 2,000 square feet. We don't ever pop 150 a month in electric and AC and electric in the summer. It's very, very good. Yeah, I mean, and you get like we have a friend that lives in Santa Fe, and they just last year added an AC to their condo because they've never had to have it before.
Right. They used to have swamp coolers or nothing.
Yes, right, or nothing. Yep. The water bills, if you are in the city, they're going to average just the same, like Jeff said, on average of 100, 125 a month. We are out in Placitas. We're on a private well, so we're $75 a year. So, yeah, and that's just to pay for the electricity to keep the well going. So it's just, again, it's all relative.
Yeah. And our water is included in our HOA because we're in an apartment building in a condo. So that's all included. Right. Water, sewer is included.
And
can I ask a question? How about trash and recycling? How big is your city on trash and recycling? I think that's an interesting. You didn't
Phoenix?
have it in there. Yeah.
There, I believe, I mean, we do. So we live in all right. So our condo has both trash. We have like chutes that we throw the trash down, and then we have to walk out the recycles. So as far as I understand, I mean, we recycle everything that we should, but then I understand and I read these articles. I don't know how true they are, but they don't recycle what they're supposed to recycle. And I feel like we're doing that for nothing, but I still do my job and recycle, but
I think that's a universal problem everywhere. It's we don't really know, but
exactly what they're putting in the recycle and what they're putting in the garbage.
Right. The same thing here. I mean, for us, it's an unknown. We hear the same stories about, yes, we're recycling what we should be. We have the separate cans, but stories about, well, they don't really keep all that stuff separate when they take it away. So
yeah, I'm like, yeah, what do they do with it? They just trash it. Yeah, well, okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the LGBTQ community in each city. So, Jeff, you want to start off? Can you describe how the LGBTQ community is in your city? Is a vibrant community? Are there any gay bars, restaurants, and a LGBTQ community center in your city?
Sure, I'm happy to, because we do have a vibrant community in Tucson. It's a very gay-friendly city, and we love being here. And there. I'll talk about communities because that question always comes up too, and I often see that question raised by people considering moving, Mark, and they're asking it on your site about neighborhoods and so forth. And Tucson does not have a specific neighborhood, and I'll just use it as a comparison to like Wilton Manors in Fort Lauderdale.
Like a neighborhood.
Yeah,
they don't have a neighborhood.
We for the most part, we don't have it. We're all over the city. And even where we live, I mean, we kind of felt like when we moved to Oro Valley 10 years ago that we were kind of on the outskirts of the city. And yet I'm doing my part as a realtor to infuse this area with more gays from around the country. And it's true, but I mean, I joke about
Hey,
that.
you
But
make community. That's what I do.
yeah,
I want to make
right.
where
Right.
you go, they'll follow.
right.
Right.
So, I mean, I think I believe it's pretty easy for people who want to meet other people of the same orientation to do that here. We are not a city of gay bars. I mean, there are probably two, but there's lots of activities. There's an LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce. There are events throughout the months. I mean, there's a monthly event. There are individuals who have taken it upon themselves to have to organize a weekly happy hour that moves around to different places. I still have it on my to-do list to do the same thing geographically in a different area than downtown, because of the fact that we have more people up here in Oro Valley and Marana and that northwest corridor who I think would enjoy it. So there are individuals who have soirees and they have people over for dinner. There were meetup groups, and that's how we met people 10 years ago that we're still close friends with. There were LGBTQ meetup groups. And so if you want to meet people, there's lots of opportunity to do that here. And I know you have a lot of bars in Phoenix. You have a huge population compared to
We
us.
do.
And I don't know if that's the quantity. I always like to say I attribute it to the fact that there's all this social media and ways to meet people now that when we grew up, we didn't have those opportunities. So you either went to a bar or some other place. But so I think we have a very receptive group of people that live in Tucson. It's very liberal. It's very blue. And we live in a neighborhood of, I would describe it as professionals who most of them are retired. They came from other places in the country. And yet from the time we moved in here, we were welcome, and we just find not just a community, but Tucson's a very friendly place. So.
My two dear friends live that, you sold them their house.
Oh, in Oro Valley. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it as, it just depends on what people want, right? I mean, you're going to Palm Springs for 3 months. You know what Palm Springs is like. And people like that inclusiveness because it's just filled with gays, right? But I'll just add one thing and then let Pam talk. But Bob and I we like diversity in our lives. So we love being in a community where, yes, we have some other gay couples in our neighborhood, but we like having diverse group of friends and always have. And so,
yeah.
And then there are other people who they
just want to hang out with the gays.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can see both sides to that.
So,
to that too.
Yeah, it's our choice, but anyway,
Right.
You're on,
Absolutely. Pam, you're on.
We are similar, Jeff, in that we do not have a gayborhood either, like some cities do. People are all spread out. But we do have an absolutely fabulous queer community in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and really throughout all of New Mexico in Las Cruces. I mean, we're all just a couple of hours apart from each other, and yet every area has super vibrant queer community. We do want to say, on paper, we are the safest state in the country in terms of protections for our LGBTQIA plus community. Thankfully, to Equality New Mexico, and the ACLU, who have worked diligently for all of that. There are so many things you couldn't possibly do them all. Like we just finished up with our 10-day Way Out West Film Festival that takes place every October, and is packed with fabulous queer films and brings people from all over to attend. It's the state's main, largest queer film festival. We have, of course, Equality New Mexico. We have HRA Santa Fe Pride. We've got the Albuquerque Community Foundation Pride Circle. I mean, there's groups like Let's Go, New Mexico, that do all kinds of events for lesbians, and there's several meetup groups. So there's two Friends of Dorothy groups. One of them meets weekly in Santa Fe, and one of them meets monthly, every other month.
I know of the Santa
in
Fe
Albuquerque area. So and there are drag events every single weekend. While we do have 3 gay bars here, there are other venues that also are gay friendly, where there are continual drag events every weekend. You couldn't possibly do them all. I mean, we have a fabulous drag scene here. So
See,
I just think
Albuquerque
it's
has
great.
gay bars, but Santa Fe doesn't.
Correct. Yep. They've never been successful in keeping one going, and yet they have a very large gay community. But yep.
Yeah, because when I was there, I was like, "Where's the gay bar?" And they're like, "Oh, we don't have one." I was like, "Why not?" And they're like, "We don't need one." And I thought, "Oh, okay." I kind of thought you need one anyway, but
I think it's nice to have, because
me too. I feel
it's
safe.
just a
My
safe
little
space.
safe place.
Right.
Because if I go to a mixed bar, I don't know. Not that I'm hitting on somebody. I just don't. Somebody may take offense of me striking up a conversation with them. Who knows?
Right. Yep. It is nice to have, but yep, they've not ever been successful there.
I wonder if age has any impact on that. I mean, I would say Tucson's in general is a pretty mature place, and even in the gay community. I mean, maybe it's just because I don't know a lot of younger people because of my own age, but I do wonder, because of these social activities and professional and groups that we all have, is there enough opportunity then for us to get out and meet and have friends and strike up relationships with people? I would say yes. I mean, and I don't know, Mark, in terms of Phoenix, you have a lot of bars.
Yeah, Phoenix is a little bit more
based
difficult.
on the fact that you have a younger population than Pamm's or ours? I don't know, but it's an interesting question to pose.
It is, and we do have that. Yeah, we do have that bigger population and that demographic of we're going to have young people. But then again, I mean, we have a group here called Our Gang. It's a gay meetup group that meets up every Friday. And I'll give that kudos to Lauren, who leads that. And he's there almost every weekend, every Friday night. And they go from bar to bar to bar to bar. And there are quite a few bars. Probably he knows the amount, I'm sure. He has it on a spreadsheet. But let's say, take a guess of 10 at least. And they're all people our age. So it's kind of nice.
You have prime timers too in Phoenix, don't you?
Yes, we do.
We have a group here as well, and we have senior pride too.
I always say I'm too young for prime timers, but I'm really not. I'm not. I
won't say.
No, nobody's going to talk about that. Nobody's going to talk. No. I'm glad that you did bring that up, Jeff, because you're right. I think that has a lot to do with it, because the gay community in Santa Fe is older, right? They're most retired, probably 50 plus, where Albuquerque has a much younger sect. So
and then you think about the apps different that are out there. So people say, "Oh yeah, there are apps out there, so now there's no need for gay bars," but I don't believe that. I think there's still a need. How about Pride? Both cities have Pride festivals, Pride parades. Okay, so each place
ours
has
is in October because of the heat.
Yes, and we just had ours. So
ours should be in October because it still could be warm in June.
Too hot. Yeah,
that's right. Warm you had a full head of hair.
I did. Imagine. Oh wait, I love that.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. So I
Perfect.
did have a full head of hair. Okay. On to the next subject, crime and safety. So, how would you rate the overall crime and safety in Tucson and Albuquerque? Is crime in these cities primarily property theft, or do you see more violent crime? Now, I know Albuquerque gets a bad rap
Mm-hmm.
wherever you speak to somebody that, oh, don't go to Albuquerque because of the crime. But I know that there is like petty thefts, car thefts,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, pickpockets, maybe the house break-ins. But tell us a little bit about the crime and shut my mouth up and let you speak.
You're absolutely right, Mark. Albuquerque has a bad rap for crime. I mean, we hear it all the time, and I think
Is it exaggerated or?
I think somewhat. I think it's somewhat exaggerated. However, that said, I mean, we don't live in downtown Albuquerque. We live rural because we like the environment and the security. It does. Historically, we have had a higher crime rate. The statistics say that we are 75.6% higher than the average state.
That's pretty high.
However, that's pretty high. That's very high. However, it is declining. Homicides have decreased by 27%. Robberies have decreased by 41%. Motor vehicle and other types of crimes have decreased by 13%. But so I think it is getting better. But is it great? Certainly not. I mean, where we live, we don't even lock our doors most of the time. So
Do you
and
think
we're
it's mostly
just
like car theft?
a lot of it is. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how about home invasion? I don't like that.
Property crime rate is 1.158 per 1,000 people. I don't know how that compares to like Tucson or Phoenix. Do either of you?
I have no idea of the.
I don't know the numbers, but I did
Numbers.
read prior to our podcast that some of our rates are dropping. I mean, we have all of the above, and from what I read, I mean, there's still some violent crimes, but those that are more frequent are either robberies, stolen vehicles, and things like that. And I would just add that I'm sure it's true where both of you live that it's certain parts of the city. I mean,
Areas.
I don't even know that
Right.
it's downtown here as much as it is some other areas of the city that are just prone to probably, I'm just going to say, homelessness, drug activity, and so it's definitely geography based, or the statistics are a result of geography based. And then there's going to be some areas where it's not an issue at all. So the good news is, when I was reading, is that a lot of our rates have dropped, but it's still, you can't ignore those numbers, and you can't ignore the fact that it still happens, right? So.
Right.
So where you are, Jeff, in Oro Valley, you feel safe going out if you had to walk the dog at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where you
Yes.
are in Placitas, not an issue either.
No. No.
How close is your nearest neighbor?
To us, about a quarter of a mile.
Oh, okay. So that's that's out there. That's out there. That's a rural area.
Yes, Placitas is, well, parts of Placitas where we are we're a little bit more remote. We're on the outer skirts of it.
Very good.
And to Jeff's point, it really depends on the part of the city. Like any city, it depends on the neighborhood. And
does Albuquerque and Tucson have a homeless issue?
Oh yeah. I'm not sure of the percentage, but I mean, is there a city in the that doesn't?
That doesn't?
Really?
Not really. Not that I know of.
Yeah.
No, we definitely have it, but there are. It's just, there are certain intersections where they're going to be out panhandling, but there's so many organizations, including the city of Tucson, that are trying to address that topic in the best way possible to get these people off the street. I mean, many of whom probably don't want to be off the street, but yeah, I mean, but again, we've vacationed in some cities where the sidewalks are just filled with tents.
Covered. Yep.
I mean, we don't see that here. They have places where they establish their territory, if you will, but some of that isn't even visible from as you drive by. But it's quite shocking when you go to, I won't even mention city names, but when you go to cities and you see downtown, the sidewalks are just filled with
people.
Yeah, in fact, I was walking down a street in one of these cities, and there were so many tents along the street. We had to go into the area. It was under a highway just to get by.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's so, and Albuquerque, I'm sure, has its issues as well, but in certain areas of probably of the downtown. Am I right?
Yes, just in certain areas, some are worse than others. But yeah, there are just sections. But they are working. There are a couple of organizations, just like Tucson, that Albuquerque is working on, that they are working on making hotels into apartments to get people off the streets, particularly in the winter. Right, because it gets cold here for a couple of months at night. So they are working on it. I mean, is it ideal? No.
Yeah, here too. And you kind of feel bad in the summer. It's like 120 degrees and you see these people just laying out there. So, all right. Transportation and walkability, or is there walkability? We'll start off. Pamm, does Albuquerque have any I know. I'm not going to say it. I'll let you say it.
Albuquerque does have a bus system. It's not ideal. Could definitely use improvement. I would say it's not really there are areas that are walkable.
The downtown, like near UNM?
The downtown, yes. Downtown near UNM, downtown by Old Town.
Central Ave.
Off of Central, right. Yep. All of that is certainly all walkable, all by the university. Yeah, definitely walkable. But you get outside of that area and it's
not.
You need a car.
Yeah. How about you do have another mode of transportation, don't you? I was there a few years ago and they were building it.
Me?
Light rail? No.
Are you talking about the bus system that goes up and down Central?
That's a bus.
It's a bus system that goes up and down. It is electric. Goes up and down Central. Yeah. No. It's a electric bus system and it runs up and down Central.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
and that's all it goes.
That's pretty much all it goes. There is a train that goes from south of Albuquerque to Santa Fe, the Rail Runner. So if you are, which is a really pretty train ride, and it takes you about, I'm going to say 40 minutes maybe to go from like Albuquerque all the way up to Santa Fe on the train. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good. Yeah, I like that. You can go back and forth rather quickly.
Yep, you can take your bikes on it and all that.
How about you, Jeff? Anything? Does Tucson have any? I know they have buses, right?
We do. I mean, I wouldn't define Tucson as walkable. Although, I mean, I do know a couple of people who have moved downtown because there's been so much renaissance going on down there with building condos and so forth. But I do know people who have, bought and or rented and just gone down there because they wanted to at least for some period of time try that lifestyle of being able to live downtown, kind of be in the midst of all the activities that downtown offers. I don't know that it's a long-term choice for them. And in terms of shopping and groceries and things like that, I mean, there's a co-op downtown, and there's probably a number of other places that you can get groceries, but it's not going to have the amenities that you might find if you had a car and used the car instead. But there's bus service, but I don't know how many years ago now, but I think since we've been here, so maybe it's 8 years or something like that. But we have a streetcar downtown, and and it's really well used. It's limited in terms of where the reach, but a lot of it is around campus. And I always see references to, like, if they're the one weekly happy hour, the LGBTQ happy hour, they, depending on where it is, they may say, take the streetcar, because then people can drive and find a parking space at a designated area where the streetcar stops, and they can take that to downtown. Same thing with some of the arts venues that are on campus and things like that. So it's very well used. It's really nice. It was very expensive, but it still has a limited reach. So, but it does kind of take its roots, take campus into consideration as well.
And it's like Phoenix too has a light rail, and you're able to go from one part of Phoenix to the other, Mesa, Tempe. But the thing is, in the sun, like if you go grocery shopping, who wants to be walking around in 120 degrees? So I still say, even though you could exist here in Phoenix, probably without a car, I would say a car is preferable because of the extreme heat in the summer.
Pamm, Mark is doing us a favor. He's promoting our two cities because he keeps talking about how hot it is in Phoenix.
I know, right? Well, it is.
Yeah.
We're always honest about our answers. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about arts and culture in each city. So, Pamm, start us off. Any museums or live theater? What's going on in Albuquerque to keep us interested?
Yeah, I think Albuquerque has a vibrant arts and culture scene. We have tons of museums, the Explora Center, the Native American Cultural Center, the Pueblo Cultural Center, the National Hispanic Cultural Center. We've got so many, and they're all great. Really, they're all great, and we've got a bunch of, like, the Chemo Theater is pretty large. The Lensic, which is actually in Santa Fe, the Hispanic Cultural Center, a large venue. We have, and there, as well as smaller theaters. So I think we're certainly not lacking for culture and things to do. And there's a big focus, obviously, on Native American heritage, on Native American art, Southwest art, that kind of thing. Certainly, it's a big jewelry capital, with the Native Americans directly selling their items either downtown in Old Town or on the square in Santa Fe. So I think it's very vibrant. Do you
have like a community theater, like off-Broadway type theater, live theater?
Yes. Yep. There are several of them. I'm going to say like 3 or 4 of them. Mm-hmm.
Very good. So I wouldn't miss my arts and culture if I moved to Albuquerque.
I don't think you'd miss. No, I think you'd find it challenging to make choices on what you wanted to do and what you couldn't do because of all the opportunities.
How about Tucson?
Same thing. I mean, it depends what you want, but you can find it here. I mean, there's independent local theater groups. There's Broadway in Tucson that comes to a venue on campus. It's what's great also, but just having the university here, because they have 2 two of their own museums in addition to the Tucson Museum of Art. There's a Center for Creative Photography that has rotating shows. Pamm wrote her list, and I didn't write my list. Shame on me. We have a gay men's chorus that does numerous performances throughout the year. It's called the Loft Theater. They do festivals during the year, and then they have a lot of indie films. There's never a shortage of activities going on here in terms of the arts.
So you
Galleries,
definitely, I wouldn't be bored.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
I wish we had more dine-in movie theaters here. That's one thing that I do.
I think we have
miss,
one of them, but
that's it, really.
Yeah, I think it was a fad actually, but I don't know what happened to them.
Wow.
Yeah, we might have one. Yeah, the only dine-in is like popcorn.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We were so spoiled living in Dallas to have 9 of them within 15 minutes. Yeah. No.
Wow, that's pretty good.
So I do miss that.
Yeah, I haven't, you know what? Movies, I haven't really gotten to a movie lately. I just stream them.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's lazy retirement or it was even before that. So
no, I think it's kind of a trend of, I think it's become a big thing, right? Movie theaters are all hurting a little bit because people do tend to stream. We do the same thing.
I mean, I like the sound and everything else, but I don't know. I tend to, it's a secret. If it's past 5 p.m. and I'm in a dark theater, I'm like totally by like 5:10.
Well,
funny.
Mark, you're retired now. You can go to the matinee.
Yes.
I go to that. Jeff, I've been going to matinees for like 10 years already.
Yeah.
Because I just can't, even when I was working, even in New York City, I'd work a whole day. I'd get up at 4 a.m. and here's one. We went to Broadway to see Les Mis. There was a bunch of, there was like 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
No, maybe 6 of us. And we just had a pasta dinner right in Manhattan, right before the show. We get to the show, they dim the lights, and I could feel it coming on. And I said to myself, Mark, you just spent $100 and whatever on this show. Do whatever you can to keep your eyeballs open, like I needed toothpicks. After a half an hour, I said, it ain't happening.
Sorry.
Nope. I was out like a light. The next thing I knew, standing ovation. I'm looking around. I got up and I looked to my husband and said, no wonder why they call this lane miserables. Because I was miserable. But yeah.
Dinner at Carmine's?
In fact, I think it was another. I've been to Carmine's quite a few times.
You would have eaten a lot of food.
Yes, a lot of food and pasta. And the pasta just did me in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the fault of the pasta.
Yeah, that's what I blame it. I was like, yeah. So I saw Les Mis and I was Ms.
Yeah.
I was so Ms. So anyway, that's that. So good arts and culture, vibrant arts and culture communities in both Tucson and in Albuquerque. Okay, how about my favorite subject, food and dining?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about restaurants, dining, food experience, and let's start off with Pamm in Albuquerque.
Albuquerque, I thought this was fascinating, and I love this, that Albuquerque was recognized as the top food city to travel in 2023. And I think we have so much diversity here in terms of food culture. Of course, the biggest question is red, green, or Christmas, right? If you've ever been to New Mexico, you've heard that term. Everything's about the chili here.
Christmas is both?
Christmas is both.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I tried them all.
Yep. but there's Native American cuisine, certainly New Mexican cuisine, which is not to be confused with Mexican cuisine.
We have a New Mexican here in Phoenix.
Do you? Yeah.
We do.
We do too.
Cool. Yeah. Is it good?
Yeah. Really good.
We're home to Happy Accidents Bar, which is been voted the best cocktail bar in the United States for 3 years in a row.
Happy Accidents.
Happy Accidents, yes. The owner.
How did they get that name?
One of the owners, Kate Gerwin, Kate and her business partner came up with it because drinks can be happy accidents, right? And so they have just these great cocktails, both alcohol and non-alcohol, that they do and a great food menu. It's really cool, hip space on Central. It's always busy.
She's getting a kickback.
Yeah.
Yahoo for Happy Accidents.
No. Yeah.
If you listen to this podcast, Happy Accidents, Pamm and her wife, a free meal would be really nice.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So a vibrant food scene. Do you know if you have any Michelin star restaurants at all?
There are, oh gosh, and
I can't remember. I've been to one that was so
Los
good.
Poblanos and farm to table. Both of them are farm to table style, but local and excellent. Just really excellent in terms of quality of food and service.
Good. It's my favorite subject is food. That's why I'll never lose any weight.
Los Poblanos is also known as the Lavender Farm.
Another secret.
Yes.
Jeff is a really good cook. And when I come to Tucson, I'm looking for a meal. So, Jeff, how's the food scene in Tucson besides your kitchen?
Well, it's very diverse, and there's a handful of restaurants that have been around for a long time and are extremely well known with different cuisine. The El Charro has a bunch of locations, but they're downtown, and they've been around for a long time, often known as one of the top Mexican restaurants in the country. Tucson, I don't know when this happened, but they have been identified by UNESCO as a city of gastronomy.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and we have a lot of ethnic restaurants, which we love: Vietnamese, Thai, Korean, Japanese, and the list goes on. Sometimes I'm a little disappointed that they all test further from us where we live downtown, but it's they stay up later down there why not? They're doing the right thing. We have at least one restaurant group that has a bunch of different restaurants, and Mark, you probably know it. Fox.
Yeah, we just went to one. I think the Henry is here in Phoenix.
And they've been expanding outside of Arizona, but so they have quite a few different restaurants. So yeah, there's a lot to choose from. Really good food. And it was just recent. There was a vegan and vegetarian festival. I don't remember where they hosted it, outside somewhere. And then all these restaurants, or maybe they were mom and pops who just, because vegan and vegetarian has gained a lot of
attention.
And then we have a lot of food trucks too. I mean, I can't tell you the names of them. I don't remember, but they're all over the place as well. So,
believe it or not, I was only in Tucson once, and it was just a date thing. And we stopped into, what's that hotel?
Congress.
Where you go on the outside. They have this outside area.
Hotel Congress.
It's an old, very, historic. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know, it's fairly recent. They have, it's called the Century Room in the Hotel Congress. And I think it's pretty much weekly. They bring in a lot of jazz musicians. And so picture the dark wood, the long room, the little stage at the end, smoky martini. They're not smoking, but the old martini bars. And they apparently bring in fabulous performers in there.
Wow.
So, and I'll put a plug in because I forgot to mention this in one of the questions, but Tucson has one of the largest book festivals in the country, and it's always in March, I think around the first weekend. It's on campus, and they bring all kinds of authors in over the course of a Saturday and Sunday weekend. And I've tried to convince Dave to come down. And
didn't he come down once?
I don't think so.
I thought he did a book
Even
thing
if he didn't
down.
want to promote himself, just to come and see it, because they'll have panelists speaking, they'll have individuals, they have a culinary tent. Of course, the university has all kinds of tabling going on. But yeah, it's for people that are readers, or even if you're not, it's just a great event to come to.
What time of year is that, Jeff?
March. It's usually like the first weekend of March, which we always say March is one of our best weather months. So
we'll have to take a little class trip.
Yeah, sounds fun.
We'll have to do meetups.
Yes, we will.
Where do gays retire meetups? Okay.
There you go.
In fact, this might be on the agenda. So I might be doing some Zooms in the future, and that's how I really started off with. So people that move to different places that really don't know community or haven't built the community and don't know anybody, I'm thinking of just like picking a city, saying, okay, anybody, and posting an event, anybody that lives in this city, join the Zoom, and then get to know one another and say what you want to say. And I'm all about building community. So we'll see what happens.
Right. Great idea.
These class trip meetups all over the world. Wouldn't that be fun?
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah. All right. So dining is great there in both places. Love it. In wrapping up, what would you say to our listeners considering moving to Tucson or Albuquerque? And what's your best advice for retirees deciding between these two cities? This is a good one.
Whoa.
Pamm, let's start with you. Put the pressure on you.
I'm going to say, between the cost of living, the culture, the climate, I think Albuquerque is just an ideal location where we get hot and cold, but the periods are so short. The weather here is really so ideal. It's just hard to walk away from. And then the cost of living. I think hands down, I would say this area of New Mexico is just quite beautiful and welcoming.
And affordable.
And
blue.
And blue. Yes. That's it. Yes. And very blue. We hope to keep it that way.
Yes. All right. Perfect. And Jeff, Tucson, what would you say to our listeners considering moving to Tucson?
Well, I would say ask questions. These podcasts provide lots of information. We moved here 10 years ago, didn't know anyone, didn't know what questions to ask. We just moved. And fortunately for us, it worked out really well. We had no regrets, have no regrets yet. And we love living here. The people are very friendly. We have great weather most of the year. It's still sunny. The months that it's hot. And you know what? There is really something to say about waking up to sun and kind of we take it for granted, but just makes a big difference in our lives. But there's so much to do here, whether it's outdoor activities, hiking, cycling. And if you want to ski, Mount Lemmon is at about 8,500 feet. And as long as they get snow, and they get it a lot, there's a ski slope up there. The food's great. The people are nice. We have a large community. Yes, we're blue. And one thing we really didn't talk about, Mark, is the climate in Arizona is so varied that we both live in cities that can get hot, but there's so many
Close
places
by
close
places.
by in Arizona, like Flagstaff or Prescott, or
Mhm.
further north. And then
Right.
if you want to go a little bit further, you can go to New Mexico and you can go to California. We're
Right.
5
It's
hours from San Diego. And
yeah,
so
us too.
Mhm.
there's so many other places to go if you want to just get away for a weekend. So
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the beauty of living here.
reach out
Yeah.
to Pamm, reach out to me, and we'll answer your questions.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Or reach out to me and I'll get you to the right person.
Connected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So thank you both again for taking the time, being so informative, and just I enjoyed this immensely, our podcast, and you bring a lot of information and great stuff to the gay community, to the LGBTQ community. Thank you so much.
Well, Mark,
Thank you for putting all this.
Yes, Mark, you deserve all the credit because
Right.
I'm sure if your listeners don't know, you've been doing this on your own time at all different time zones, and you're still doing it and expanding. We met through Zoom.
Yes,
and
we did.
We talked about Tucson, and
Yes.
so you've expanded the palette. And if people that are listening don't know, Mark has invested a ton of time to bring you these podcasts and information. So he deserves the credit.
Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that very much.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
a
give
lot of
yourself
work
a
and
clap,
kudos.
Mark.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, let's try. And you know what? A cheer.
Love it.
That's podcast.
It won't. All right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mark. Thank you both. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be on here with both of you.
Thank you very much. And we'll talk soon on the next one.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.